Let's be honest, for years the world of fighter jets has been a two-horse race, or rather a one-horse race, with a very expensive, very loud American horse leading the charge. That horse is the F-35 Lightning II. It was the future. It was star-spangled awesome. It was the jet every nation with cash and desire to be in the cool kids club wanted. And then there was the other one, a little thing from Sweden, the Saab Gripen, and when you mentioned it in a pub full of aviation buffs, you'd get a polite, almost pitying chuckle. The Gripen, oh, that's cute. It was seen as the sensible, slightly boring Volvo of the skies. Reliable, safe, probably very good at not offending anyone, but hardly a machine to set your trousers on fire. The F-35 was the heavyweight champion, a technological marvel forged in fires of a budget so large it could solve world hunger twice over. It was stealthy. It had a helmet that cost more than a Ferrari. The Gripen was the underdog from a country known for sensible furniture and excellent meatballs. It was the plucky contender nobody really thought stood a chance. The world looked at its price tag, its single engine, its simple design, and simply patted it on the head. Good effort, they'd say, before turning back to swoon over the F-35's latest software update. The idea that this little Swedish firefly could challenge the American Leviathan wasn't just unlikely, it was considered laughable. So what is this Gripen thing anyway? To understand why it started causing such a fuss, you have to understand the Swedish philosophy behind it. The Swedes have a word, lagom, which roughly means just the right amount, not too much, not too little. The Gripen is lagom with wings. It wasn't designed by a committee of 1,000 accountants and generals demanding a machine that could do everything, including making morning coffee. It was designed by a small team of very clever engineers with a specific problem: how to defend a very large country with a very small air force and an even smaller budget. All while a rather large and grumpy bear of a neighbor, Russia, loomed next door. Their solution was brilliant in its simplicity. Instead of building a jet that relied on overwhelming power and eye-watering technology, they built one that was clever. The Gripen E, the latest version, is a masterpiece of efficiency. It has a single, powerful General Electric engine, the same family that powers the F/A-18 Super Hornet. It's small, it's light. This means it sips fuel instead of guzzling it, allowing it to stay in the air longer. And it was designed from the ground up to be easy to maintain. The Swedes knew they wouldn't have massive, pristine air bases. They needed a jet that could be refueled, rearmed, and sent back into the fight by a handful of conscripts on a frozen motorway in less than 10 minutes. Try doing that with an F-35. You'd need a team of software engineers and a clean room just to change a tire. It was a philosophy born of necessity, valuing brains over brute, expensive force. Now let's talk about Goliath. The Lockheed Martin F-35 Lightning II. You cannot overstate what a monumental piece of engineering this thing is. It is, without doubt, the most expensive and complex weapons system in the history of mankind. The goal was simple and breathtakingly ambitious: to create one aircraft that could replace a whole host of specialized planes, US Air Force, Navy, Marine Corps, as well as for its allies. It was designed to be a jack of all trades and master of all of them. It was a bomber, a fighter, a spy plane, all rolled into one impossibly advanced, stealthy package. Less of an aircraft, more of a flying supercomputer with a jet engine bolted to the back. The big selling point was stealth, designed to be virtually invisible to enemy radar. It could slip through the most advanced air defenses, strike its target, be on its way home before the other side even knew. A sensor suite could hoover up battlefield data from hundreds of miles away, process it, share it with ships, tanks, soldiers on the ground. The pilot, a helmet costing $400,000, could literally see through the floor. In theory, a pilot would win a fight before the enemy knew one was happening. It was on paper unbeatable. The F-35 was a godlike weapon, a trillion-dollar hammer. The first hint that the little Swedish jet might be more than just a plucky runner-up came not in real battle, but in simulated war games of the Nevada desert. Red Flag, this is the big one, the Top Gun school for entire air forces. It's where the best pilots and planes from allied nations fight against dedicated aggressor squadrons using enemy tactics. For years, the story coming out of Red Flag was the utter dominance of fifth-generation fighters like the F-22, F-35. They would rack up kill ratios of 20-1 against older fourth-generation jets. It was a turkey shoot. Then, in winter of 2024, the Brazilians showed up with their brand new Gripen E's. At first, nobody paid them much mind. The American pilots, snug in their F-35s, probably felt a bit sorry for them, but then the exercises began. The scenario was complex. A blue force of F-35s, F-16s, Typhoons had to push through heavily defended airspace, protected by a red force of F-16 aggressors, and for the first time, the Brazilian Gripens. The plan was for F-35s to use their stealth to sneak in, take out enemy radar installations and command centers, opening a corridor for other jets. It was a standard tactic that had worked flawlessly 100 times before, except this time it didn't. The Gripen pilots, using their jet's incredibly powerful electronic warfare suite and advanced data links, did something unexpected. Instead of trying to find F-35s on radar, a fool's errand, they started looking for the electronic noise the F-35s couldn't help but create. The F-35, for all its stealth, is a data-hoovering, data-transmitting machine. The Gripens, networked together, started picking up these faint electronic whispers. The kill ratios weren't 20-1 anymore, but it was a crack. A definite crack in the F-35's armor of invincibility. If Red Flag 2024 was a polite tap on the shoulder, the Arctic Thunder incident of March 2025 was a full-blown punch to the jaw. This wasn't a game. Tensions in the high north had been simmering for months, with increased Russian bomber patrols testing NATO's air defenses. On a cold, grey morning, a pair of Norwegian F-35s were scrambled to intercept two Russian Tu-160 Blackjack bombers approaching their airspace, escorted by a pair of advanced Su-35 flanker fighters. It was a standard intercept mission, the sort that happens a dozen times a year. This time, however, the Russians weren't just probing. They were being deliberately provocative, flying erratically and using heavy electronic jamming. The Norwegian F-35s found themselves in a tricky situation. The Russian jamming was powerful, degrading their sensors, and then without warning, two more contacts appeared on their screens, screaming in from the east at supersonic speed. They were Swedish Air Force Gripen E's, which had been on routine patrol near the border. The Swedish pilots, having monitored the situation using the Gripen's formidable passive sensors, didn't just fly in to observe, they came in hot. Immediately, the entire electronic battlefield changed. The Gripen's electronic warfare system, designed specifically to counter Russian hardware, went to work. According to the Norwegian pilots' debrief, the Russian jamming that had been causing them so much trouble simply evaporated. The Swedish jets were acting as standoff electronic bodyguards, punching a clean corridor through the electronic smog for the F-35s. But the Swedes weren't done. One of the Gripens painted one of the aggressive Su-35s with its powerful radar. The Russian pilot suddenly saw a solid lock from a fighter he hadn't even been tracking. His bravado vanished. The Russian formation promptly broke off the engagement and turned for home. No shots were fired, but the message was sent. So, how did it do it? How did this little Swedish jet, which lacks the all-encompassing stealth of the F-35, manage to get the upper hand in the electronic realm? The answer lies in a different approach to survival. While the F-35's philosophy is don't be seen, the Gripen's is be seen, but you won't know what you're seeing. It's a master of disguise, a ghost in the machine. The jet is equipped with one of the most sophisticated and powerful electronic warfare suites ever fitted to a fighter. It doesn't just jam enemy radar, it plays tricks on it. Make one look like 10, make it appear 100 miles away, make it vanish from radar, then reappear somewhere else. The F-35 is a ninja, the Gripen is a magician on stage. Its ESA radar, gallium nitride, can track multiple targets. It can guide missiles, it can act as a powerful jammer. It does all three simultaneously in different directions. It listens to enemy radar emissions, analyzes them instantly, sends back a perfectly mimicked false signal. That trick confused enemy systems. It paid off in the Arctic Thunder incident and at Red Flag. Gripens operate as a single networked organism. They use Link 16 and proprietary high-bandwidth jam-proof links. 4 Gripens share sensory and electronic data instantly. Only one plane is exposed at a time. They switch the talking jet in a split second. It's electronic whack-a-mole, Sweden's strategy: fewer planes, smarter planes, make each plane count for more. Beyond all the high-tech wizardry and battlefield heroics, there's a much more boring but arguably more important reason the Gripen started turning heads: money. and, well, common sense. In an era where defense budgets are strained and the public is asking tough questions, the economics of fighter jets matter more than ever. The F-35 is, to put it mildly, stunningly expensive. The sticker price is one thing, but the truly terrifying number is the cost per flight hour. By 2025, it was hovering around $40,000 to $50,000 for every single hour the jet was in the air. That's not just fuel, maintenance, spare parts, software licenses, and the small army of highly specialized technicians needed to keep it flying. The Gripen, on the other hand, was a breath of fresh, fiscally responsible air. Its cost per flight hour was estimated to be somewhere between $5,000 and $8,000. Let me say that again. You could fly a Gripen for a whole day, a full 8-hour shift, for roughly the same price as flying an F-35 for a single hour. This isn't just a minor detail, it's a game changer. It means pilots can train more, a lot more. A pilot with 300 hours a year in a Gripen is going to be sharper, more proficient, and more confident than a pilot who only gets 100 hours a year in an F-35 because the Air Force can't afford the fuel and maintenance bill. Then there's the whole issue of maintenance and reliability. The Swedish motorway concept wasn't just a gimmick, it fundamentally shaped the aircraft's design. Everything on the Gripen is designed to be accessible and easy to replace. The engine can be swapped out in the field in about an hour. A team of 6 conscripts with basic training can refuel and rearm the jet for its next mission in under 10 minutes. The F-35, with its billion lines of code and tightly integrated systems, was the polar opposite. Its mission-capable rates were struggling to get above 70%, while the Gripen was consistently hitting 90% or more. The Gripen is like a world rally championship car, incredibly tough, brutally effective, and designed to be fixed with a wrench and grit by the side of a muddy road. The Gripen's shocking performance in 2025 sent a powerful message across the globe. It resonated most strongly with smaller nations. For decades, the air power game had been rigged in favor of the superpowers. If you wanted a top-tier air force, you had to buy American, Russian, French, and play by their rules. You were locked into their supply chains, upgrade schedules, political whims. The Gripen represented something different: aerial independence. Saab offered full technology transfer to customers. When Brazil bought the Gripen, they got production lines in Brazil with Brazilian engineers building Brazilian planes. When Sweden offered the Gripen to the Czech Republic, Hungary, it came with flexible leasing arrangements, making it affordable. This was about building a partnership. It let smaller nations operate a first-class fighter, develop aerospace industries, and gain technological know-how. It leveled the playing field. Gripen performance in realistic exercises and real-world encounters proved these nations hadn't picked a second-rate option. They'd made a smart strategic choice. They had a fighter that could stand up to and sometimes outwit the most advanced jets. A Czech pilot in a Gripen could face an adversary with confidence because the jet was nimble and cheap to fly, packed with world-beating electronic warfare systems and networked capabilities. You didn't need a $100 billion budget to defend your airspace. You needed to be clever. This had a profound psychological effect. An underdog story on a global scale, Gripen became a symbol for nations overshadowed by bigger neighbors. For air forces in Thailand, South Africa, Central Europe, the Gripen was a statement of sovereignty. They were no longer just customers in a market dominated by giants. They were serious players defending borders with homegrown solutions, pound for pound one of the best in the world.